Thank you. And Mr. President, much has already been said on this floor as we express our love and admiration for our friend and former colleague, Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah. He was not like any other senator. Orrin was the best of all of us, and our household was very sad to hear of his passing. I'll never forget the time he took to answer the calls from an obscure state senator from Oklahoma, and if you haven't figured it out, that was me. And he had his way about him with everyone he met, unwavering kindness and gentle nature that Kay and I will miss deeply. And you don't see a lot of that in the United States Senate. We were close long before it was even in the House. Orrin was the one who I would go to for wisdom, and we had the same love for Jesus and everything that we hold dear. I will always remember his humor, but he also gave his best advice. He was not just a friend, but a confidant. Whether he was talking about scripture or history, he had a way of saying things that brought people together. And you don't see that today. You see people fighting each other. And that's what people always say. When I go back to Oklahoma, people talk about, why don't you guys get along? Well, we do. It didn't come across that way, but it did with him. I think back fondly on everything that we've done while Orrin was in office, despite strong opposition at the time. Myself and Senators Hatch, Chambliss, and Thune were able to pass an amendment permitting the Air Force to enter into a multi-year procurement for a total of 60 F-22s during the 2007 NDAA. The NDAA is something we pass every year. It's the National Defense Authorization Act, and that's what happened that year. Now, that turned out to be 1/3 of our total force in one effort, one NDAA effort. The argument against the amendment at the time was that we didn't need such an air-dominant fighter, but we knew that we were making an investment in the future of our defense. Orrin had that foresight. He was always looking to the future. And in advancing years, people would joke around about it because he was looking at the next generation. And he showed the foresight always when others didn't. Not only that, but together we worked very closely to ensure the future of our Air Force depots. I remember the CODEL. A CODEL is a group when members go someplace to examine things. And I led a group of CODELs along with Senator Hatch and Senator Chambliss, which toured each one of our depots as part of the initiative to restore their funding. This is something that we had to do at that time because our administration had not done an adequate job. Now, Orrin, you'd think of him as always a serious person. He wasn't. He was most of the time he's poking fun at himself. I remember laughing often when he was around. Together we supported funding for these Air Force depots that continue to be vital to our home states of Oklahoma, Utah, and Georgia. But we had fun while doing it. That was Orrin's way of doing it. He always had fun. And for those of you who are not familiar with our nation's depots, they are state-of-the-art maintenance repair facilities for the Air Force's aircraft. We do this ourselves to make sure, because you can't trust anyone else to get them done. And simply put, our nation would not be able to rule the skies without the critical maintenance and repair work that's performed on our incredibly complex aircraft. To ensure our nation will always have our nation's depots, there are laws commonly called core or 50-50 laws, which preserve the depot's maintenance. And I know a lot of people are not familiar even with the term depot, but it is It's critically important for our survival. Throughout my tenure on the Senate Armed Services Committee, I greatly appreciated the legal analysis that Senator Hatch provided my staff and me when the executive branch would send over suggested changes to these critical laws. Now, there are many times when, after reading those proposals, Senator Hatch would raise the alarm in my colleagues on the Senate Armed Services Committee. And I would then turn to battle, and sometimes we had to do what was necessary, but we did it together. After the Obama administration canceled the NASA Project Constellation, which was supposed to replace the space shuttle, there was a real question if the civilian solid rocket motor industry, which employs thousands of people in Utah, was going to survive. And obviously it did survive. And it was due to Orrin Hatch. Using his considerable legislative skills, Senator Hatch was able to insert language in the fiscal year 2010 NASA, that's the National Authorization Act, that directed the new heavy lift space launch system that we be built to lift from inception 130 tons, an objective which at the time it could only be accomplished by using solid rocket motors. And he did it. He did it. He looked out into the future. This is back when he was actually in advanced years himself. And as a result, a few weeks ago, NASA just rolled the SLS out of the launch pad for testing before it carries the astronauts to the moon. We're projecting to be in 2025. I was also very impressed by how Senator Hatch and his prominence to promote the use of Hill Air Force Base. Whenever there was an Air Force official within hearing distance, Senator Hatch would espouse the strengths and capabilities of Hill Ogden Air Logistics Complex, and he did so very persuasively, and the results were there. And he was the guy that did it. In fact, I honestly believe that one of the reasons why Hill was chosen to receive the first 3 squadrons of F-35s is because Orrin Hatch was always advocating for Hill with the Air Force senior leadership. Now, one of the things that I loved about Orrin Hatch, his placement of observed words into many of his speeches. He would say things that were so obscure no one would know what he's talking about. So no one in the Senate wants to believe that they don't understand what he's talking about, but they didn't. And he would use words that no one really had any idea what they meant. And these are the words that he used. And I actually wrote these down some time ago. One was Bovarism. That's defined by him as an exaggerated, especially glamorized estimate of oneself. I think we know what we're talking about there. Cockalorum is a small man with a big opinion of himself. We knew that. Or furphy, a false report or a rumor. Now, when asked why he insisted on using that kind of a vocabulary, Senator Hatch would beam his boyish grin and chuckle and respond, "I like confusing Democrats." Well, he had a very peculiar way of trying to get to know volunteers. He would get people that had no status in life. He would have people who are driving cars. Many of these are young people that were escorting him different places just to make speeches or something. But he started off talking about them. He had a peculiar way of trying to get to know volunteers, people that no one else paid any attention to. He would drive them, if they were driving him to events, without fail. He would always compliment the volunteer about his car, And it could be an old junker car, but nonetheless, he would talk about it because he knew that young people were proud of their cars. And I'm talking about the volunteer could have been driving a 50-year-old Yugo with the floor rusted through, but I can assure you that Senator Hatch would find something nice to say about the volunteer's car. Now, it is my personal opinion is that one of the best ways to know someone is to listen to them pray. When we address our Creator, we reveal who we really are. And many of us waited around and listened and waited for Orrin to do one of his prayers, and he had that kind of a love that everyone enjoyed. And for those who listened to this, or has read this record, I want to present a genuine Orrin Hatch to you, a person that we all came to know and love. In 2010, Senator Hatch was chosen to say the main prayer at the 57th National Prayer Breakfast here in Washington. Now, it's been going on now for 60 years. We've had our 60th now, and this is something that it lasts forever. And so at this one, and in fact, I would ask unanimous consent right now that the full text of Senator Hatch's prayer for peace and tranquility in front of that crowd of 4,000 people on that February morning 12 years ago be included in the record as part of my remarks at the conclusion of my remarks. And without objection, I thank you.
Without objection.
Today, I believe Orrin Hatch fully enjoys the peace and tranquility that he prayed for, and all that to say Orrin Hatch will be missed dearly by me and by my many friends of Orrin Hatch's. We have lost a true hero, and one of my closest personal friends, Kay and I, are praying for Elaine and their family and loved ones as they go through this difficult time. So today is goodbye to my friend, and God bless you, Orrin Hatch.